Prime Big Deal Days is here.
Woohoo!
Which can lead to involuntary deal squeals, like the classic deal on a new blender squeal.
Yeah!
Save big this Prime Big Deal Days. On now.
Hello and welcome to Futures Focus, a fantasy baseball podcast centering around all the top prospects in the game, brought to you by Prospects 1500. My name is Alex Sanchez. Joining me, per usual, the great Nate, never late, always first rate, Nate Eckert.
Ooh, I like that one, brother. I like that one.
Just throwing a bunch of you-know-what against the wall and seeing what sticks. How we doing tonight, Nate?
Oh, excellent. I'm actually visiting my folks out here in the lovely Great Northwest, Seattle, Washington, the greater Seattle, Washington area, more like the suburbs just north of Seattle. So on location or via remote, bringing Prospects 1500 to everybody from the Great Northwest. So hello, everyone from up here. It's a bit colder than Los Angeles, even though it's late August. Usually it's gorgeous out here, 85 or so. But for whatever reason this year, they're getting fall a little bit early. So it happens.
Yeah, beautiful country up there. Cool places to visit and just a happening scene. But yeah, we miss you down here in SoCal. It's definitely not cool here as the weather has been pretty hot lately. But with the summer heating up and cooling down, hopefully soon enough, we are at a very important part of the year when it comes to prospect lists. Nate, we got our top 106 prospects for the midseason released on Prospects 1500 just a few days ago. And this is always a very, I think, popular episode with a lot of changes to some of these rankings, graduations, of course. And so today we got all that we can handle when it comes to analyzing this list, telling you some of the risers, some of the guys that we see falling, buy low, sell highs, all that good stuff. So check out the list if you have not. I haven't seen too many like updated mid-season lists. I know it's like we're past the mid-season mark in a lot of places, but always good to get another set of eyes. And again, this is the one where you're having multiple contributors, writers from staff do these, and just a little bit differently than they had done it in the past. I went over this last year, but for those that are a little new or didn't listen to that particular episode, basically we have tiers on this website, right? Where you have tier 1, which is a guy that we are expecting that's going to be a difference maker, right? Guys that all-star caliber that we're very confident, and there's just a handful of those. So we were ranking them based on the tier 1. If you go to all the team lists, you'll see the tier, the players that are in each tier. And so we rank those 1 to 21. And then after that, you have the second tier, the third tier, and the fourth tier, and the fifth tier. And again, the second tier is guys that we think are going to make it, maybe not necessarily all-stars, but very confident that they're going to see substantial major league time. And then, I don't have to sit here all day and explain every little tier to you. But again, for this list, essentially, you're at the tier 1, tier 2, and a touch. Actually, there was no tier 3 player. So there you go. It's your tier 1 and tier 2 only. So gives you an idea of where we're at. 23, I misspoke earlier, by the way. It's 23, not 21. So 23 tier 1 players, the rest are tier 2. So that's how the system works. It's an average ranking of all of those writers. I don't know off the top of my head. I think he got up to 10 or so. That's the background. So Nate, we're going to go over it. We're just going to probably do the bottom half today. This is just, when I went to my podcasting 101 class in the textbook, it says leave the best for last. So we'll go over probably the top 50 and then another episode coming up. We won't wait too long to release that one, but we're going to do the bottom half. But to be honest, the bottom half's more fun, Nate. Let's just be honest. These
Always.
are the guys that you can maybe go pick up right now. Names that you maybe not even familiar with. We have a guy that hasn't even pitched. The first guy we're going to talk about, Cash Mayfield, hasn't even has an inning for the Padres in professional ball yet. So these are guys that may be available, maybe weren't drafted, whatnot. But let's just jump right into it with the aforementioned Cash Mayfield. What a name, Cash. You just
right?
Go wrong with that. And this guy is Cash with a lot of question marks. Okay, so when you're looking at Cash Mayfield, you're going to be getting a guy that could potentially be a front of the line starter. But man, we don't know a lot about this kid. Like I said, hasn't pitched yet. 6'4", has a couple of pitches. He's definitely a starter, but we didn't see him a lot in the showcase circuit, and he is sitting, 95, 96. So a guy that if you're risk adverse and you don't mind waiting, somebody that the potential is really crazy, kind of like the Lesko, where different situation with an injury, but eventually, and especially with the Padres, this lefty is in good hands. So really, you're probably not seeing Cash Mayfield on a lot of top 100 lists. I think he would in the 150s. I think is the highest I've seen him. So we're definitely a little bit higher on him than others, and I think mainly that's to do with the fact we haven't seen a lot of him in pro ball. So a lot of scariness here, but as long as you're not investing too much, it should be a pretty fun gamble and a guy to follow moving forward.
With a name like Cash, I mean, how can you go wrong?
Yeah, Cash money. Great name potential for your fantasy team too. So Nate, that was 106. Why don't you tell us a little bit about our number 105?
Yeah, thank you. Number 105 is the Phillies' own shortstop, youngster, supreme, Starlin Caba, Caba, Starlin Caba. He is a 18-year-old for all of 2024, turned 18 in December, and he is one of those top international signings, really athletic kid, only 18, 5'9", 160, switch hitting, youngster out of, let's see here, the Dominican, signed for $3 million. So that's always a good sign when a major league club is willing to give, these baby prospects a nice big chunk of change. Something tells me that Starlin was our resident Phillies expert, Tony Bipp's choice to put on the 106, the top 106. This sounds like a radio station, does it not? Top 106. Okay, so
we're asking you what a radio is, by the way.
Yeah, let's not date ourselves, huh? Too much.
AM, FM, XM?
Yeah. Yeah. Radio flyer. Oh, wow, that's really dating ourselves now. Tony Bips, shout out to Tony Bips. 2024, he's run into a couple of struggles. He did really well stateside his very first. No, I'm sorry, did well in the Dominican League last year. But like most, when they're so very young and they come stateside for the first time, there's a bit of a struggle. Right now, he's hitting 234, but he does have a great on-base percentage. And a lot of times with these youngsters, it's really hard to ask of them to see any type of power numbers, especially when they're not even projected to be a power hitter. So sometimes on the surface, their stats can be a bit dissuading, but in this case, I like his on-base percentage, 392 on the year. He's now in full season single A ball, so he's a true professional. He's got a great walk to strikeout ratio, 64 walks to 47 strikeouts. So walk to strikeout ratio is excellent. And the kid is only one stolen base away from 50. So yeah, a lot of lot to like from Starlin Caba. He looks to have one of those shortstops that has, or middle infielders that has a really high floor, because his hands are what makes him, and he'll always have a nice sturdy at bat. I'm sorry, batting average for you. So 105, the youngster from Philly, Starlin Caba, CABA.
Yeah, definitely a stolen base guy there. And again, another guy that I think you're going to, I think we may tend to go a little bit further on these guys that are at the fringe here, just because they are guys that might be available. I'm looking, the next guy I have right now, Seaver King. Granted, there's first year player drafts, but I mean, some leagues he's just available in. Definitely worth getting you a little extra. I think when we get to some of these higher names, we won't maybe go as long, but I think it's important to introduce some of these guys that we haven't talked a lot about on this podcast. That's Seaver King too. So this guy comes out at 10 overall in a draft that I think had like 8 or 9 of these types of players, just shortstops with good hit tools that are not going to hit a lot of homers, but have a good glove and a good arm. It's like a Dansby Swanson mold kind of out of college. Of course, Swanson established a little bit more power as he went on, and maybe even became a better defender than we ever thought he could be. But this is kind of what you're going to get with Seaver King: 12, 15 homers, maybe flirting with a 300 batting average, and a little bit of speed too. So nothing crazy, but as a shortstop, those are kind of in my sweet spot of guys that I'm always looking at. So Seaver King from Washington comes in at 104. So Nate, who do we got at 103?
At 103, we've got your boy Alex Jacob Melton, the oft-comped Josh Lowe outfielder for the Houston Astros organization. Melton is all of 23. He will be 24 very soon in September 7th. He'll be turning 24. He's a lefty outfielding, I'd say kind of 5-toolish type player. He's got a 50 hit tool, a 50 power tool, a 60 run tool, 55 arm, and a 55 field. So you could see he's kind of got the 5-tool profile going. But his hit tool, he's pretty sturdy at 245 last year through 2 levels, single A advanced and double A. He hit 245 this year through 2 levels. Double A and triple A, he's hitting 245. His on base percentage took a little bit of a sink from 334 to 311, but his slug is right there where you'd like to see it. He went from 467 last year to 425 this year. So just a little bit of what's that called when you reach a new level and you need just an adjustment period, I'd say. For Melton, look for this kid to break with the club next year and hopefully do some stuff like Josh Lowe. He's a little bit lower on the hit tool range like Lowe was or is, but he has some good pop. He hit 23 bombs last year, but he's at 13 thus far this year. Again, he's seeing better pitching for sure. So I think next year is when he puts it all together. 26 steals on the year as well. So Jacob Melton, that is 103 on our list. Outfielder for Houston.
I like that Josh Lowe comparison because he was doing a lot in AAA for a long time, and you just wondered, okay, when is this going to happen? I've been thinking of why isn't he getting the call up this year with the way the Astros season has gone? But it makes a lot of sense to track, and he's a fantasy goldmine if he puts it all together. So next, a pitcher, our first right-handed pitcher so far. This is a guy that I would hate for somebody who doesn't really know baseball, but knows enough to know, like, oh yeah, 100 is fast. Yelber Diaz for Arizona, the right-hander. if you watch him pitch, you would think this is one of the top 2 or 3 arms in all of baseball. I mean, his stuff is ridiculous. He's already made his debut this year. Now the control is off, and that's what's really holding him back here. But man, this guy has an electric fastball, an electric slider. It's hitting 99 in his starts, and he strikes out a bunch of people, 2 at least so far in AAA. This guy, again, if you could go into a lab and make somebody into a major league pitcher, you'd probably do something similar to this guy. I'm really excited for him and to see if he can harness this, because if he harnesses it, the size is a little low, 6 foot, but still, I mean, you just watch this guy pitch for 5 minutes and you're already thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, this guy is Paul Skeens. It's like that stuff. It's that dirty. So a guy that, let me check my leagues really quick here and see just how available he is. Give you an idea. Yeah, I mean, I have him I could get him. I don't have him in a lot of leagues. I need to, but in 2, 3 out of the 6, 7 leagues I'm in, so about half the leagues he's available, and these are all dynasty leagues. So an arm definitely worth betting on. If you're going to bet on a righty that's this close to the big leagues and this amount of stuff, this is the guy, man. He's fantastic. And you know what? The Diamondbacks have really developed some of this already with Ryan Nelson and Brendan Pfaadt. These are just guys or Brandon Pfaadt, excuse me, that have great stuff, just amazing stuff, and they're harnessing it. So good to see, good organization to be in. Diamondbacks on fire. This is a guy, maybe you put him in the bullpen even in this postseason and see what happens. It's going to be very, very interesting. So coming in 102, Yolmer Diaz, the right-handed pitcher for Arizona. So give us the 101 on number 101, Nate.
Nice segue. So just a little behind the scenes before we started, Alex and I agreed just to go back and forth with the odds and the evens on these numbers here. And I lucked out with the odds. And coming up just through these first few guys, I see a name that I have been following since the 2020 draft, ladies and gents. Alejandro Rosario. He is now 22, 6'1", 182 pounds, right-handed pitcher for the Texas Rangers organization. So as a prepster, he went undrafted because he was probably right around the 5th, 6th round out of high school. He had a strong commit to Miami, as a lot of kids who go to Miami have. So I think the word got out that he wasn't going to sign for anything, below $1 million or something like that. So he ended up not getting drafted in 2020, but as everybody knows, the 2023 draft came rolling around, and now he gets taken in the 5th round by the Texas Rangers. And I think the Rangers really got the deal of the draft, or one of the many deals of the draft, as this kid was on my radar going into the 2020 draft as a prepster. Fastball is excellent. It's got great riding quality. It sits 94 to 98, and you can touch 100, no problem. He's a bit diminutive at 6'1", 182, but, he's still growing. He'll add more muscle as he gets to the show, and he's already hitting digits that you want to see. He's got a great slider, but I think what's changed the most of all from when he was a prepster, when I was really following him, was he's added a splitter, which is the hottest pitch, that and the sweeper. But I argue the splitter is way more dominant once they get that dialed in. And his splitter grades at 60, the 6 through the 80 scouting scale. So, and against competition, I think that's a pretty good. I think that's a pretty good rating, considering that on the year he's made 16 starts. He's 4-4 with a 2.29 ERA. You love seeing that. 82 2/3 innings pitched, only 64 hits. Even better, only 2 home runs hit off of him this year. So he keeps that splitter nice and low, keeps that slider nice and low, and he rides that fastball right up your nose. Only 12 walks on the season, everyone, through 82 and 2/3, and 123 strikeouts through 82 and 2/3 innings pitched. An opponent's average of only 204, and best of all, a 0.92 whip. So here you've got a kid who I can guarantee is going to be available in most dynasty leagues, who's throwing 2.29 ERA, as high as single A advanced in his very first exposure to pro baseball, and he's a strikeout ace. I'd put him in as high as probably your number 2 pitcher. That's probably the ceiling. A lot like Jared Jones. He's kind of got that Jared Jones flavor to him, if you will.
Yeah.
So Alejandro Rosario, everyone, Texas Rangers.
Really like him. Take a look. Just to give you an idea, I think a really good little tool we can do here, again, trying to help everybody listening more so than anything, is to let you know if this guy is owned, especially this range of prospect, if they're owned in the Highlander DI. This is, a league with Chris Clegg, Eric Cross, James Anderson, all those guys, right? And
all the studs.
Yeah, and these guys are owned, right? Alejandro Rosario's owned, Diaz is owned. So if they're available in that league, it kind of gives you a little bit of an idea, because anyway, so the next guy is my example why I'm kind of bringing that up. It's Sterling Thompson. This is a guy that coming in at even 100, and he is not owned in the Highlander. And I understand why. Probably one of the bigger fallers, because if you look at what he was doing coming into the league, even in 2022, his debut, and his half of the year in 2023 in high A, just he was as advertised. And he's advertised as a hit first guy that wasn't going to hit for a lot of power, but you're playing in Colorado. You got a little excited about it, and you thought maybe he could be, take it to the next level. Unfortunately, it's been a rough go in the higher levels. He got bumped up to Double A as a 22-year-old. So, I mean, nothing crazy there. Hit 238 with 7 homers and 32 strikeouts to 15 walks. So okay, I can live with that. End of the season, first full season. The problem is his repeat performance has been not good and a lot of concerns. So 243, so close to that. The on-base percentage at 315. So if this guy's not going to hit for power, he's not going to get on base, and he has 13 stolen bases, he's not going to be – that's going to go down too. He's not a plus runner by any means. You're relying it all on that hit tool, and then the big red flag is the 107 strikeouts for him this year, and you would not have expected from him. He's reminding me a lot of Robert Hassel. Excuse me, my voice died there because it's hard for me to say because I loved Hassel. Robert Hassel, a guy that, again, I mean, with these hit tool guys, I don't know. It's just such a big jump each level. And then if that hit tool isn't as advertised or it declines in any way and you're not left with any backup, you can fall really quickly. So Sterling Thompson is a guy that, I'm looking at the Rockies top 30 list on MLB. Any idea where he might slot in on MLB Pipeline? Again, more of a real life list, but take a guess, Nate.
With the
Colorado Rockies.
Sterling Thompson. 9?
Yeah, he's down at 14 on MLB Pipeline. Clearly we still believe in him a little bit, but man, this is a guy that maybe you buy low on in a very deep league. Colorado is still Colorado, and that's not changing. And it seems like everybody they call up just, you thought, okay, Nolan Jones, he's got it. It clicked. And then now who is Nolan Jones, right? Who knows what goes on in there in Colorado. So it's always tantalizing to pick these Colorado guys. But just an interesting story. Probably don't need to spend as much time on him, but I thought it was pretty interesting for some people that maybe weren't following us closely and like that name maybe a year ago. But yeah, so a little bit of a fall for him. But anyway, we're into the top 100 here. We're going a little slower than I thought. So maybe we'll do a kind of a 3-parter episode. Let's see how far we can get, Nate, though, with number in the 90s now. Number 99, the first baseman outfielder for the New York Mets.
You said it. You said it, Alex. Number 99, Ryan Clifford, the big banging rumble pony at Double-A for the Mets. He was drafted, of course, by Houston in 2022 in the 11th round. Kind of got that Kyle Manzardo feel, but with a much less of a hit tool. Coming in at 221 this year with his batting average. If I were to guess, I'd say he's probably one of those 3 true outcome guys because he has 142 strikeouts on the season, folks. He also has 87 walks, which is why his on-base percentage is 374. So you can't be too mad at him, but his slug went down quite a bit. He was 480 last year. This year he's 408, making his OPS a 782, which I think he hit the Double-A wall personally. Before this year, he had only seen single A, and that was it. This year, he goes into Double-A. He gets 273 at-bats, and he still popped 15 home runs. So who knows? Maybe actually, no, I'm sorry, folks. His stats, aside from his on-base percentage, are better than they were earlier this year in single A advance. So perhaps he was mad at the Mets for keeping him down, and when they promoted him to Double-A, he felt more at home because he had an 805 OPS in Double-A with 15 home runs. So you like to see that his trajectory is on the way up, seeing his highest level. He just went yard yesterday or the day before, and that's Ryan Clifford. Everybody, I mean, I think a lot of people know him for that big trade with Justin Verlander. Going from the Mets to Houston back again. And yeah, so Ryan Clifford comes in at 99.
Yeah, Clifford, again, kind of, that's sort of the theme of these guys. If they would have taken the next step, they would not have been down this low on the list. But here's a guy that I think you'll see rise quickly. Again, he hasn't taken a huge, he's so young, but the breakout season, here I am, and that's number 98, Rafi Velasquez, who is a catcher in quotations. We all know he is more of a first baseman, DH guy for the Cleveland Guardians. I saw a Samuel Basallo with him, left-handed hitter, just mashes baseballs, and it's going to be tough to find a spot for him. With Basallo, it was, okay, you have Adley there. But with Velasquez, it's more, you can't play catcher very well. But out of Huntington Beach High School, by the way, the third first-round pick ever out of Huntington Beach, right by me, like Huntington. But this guy can mash. Now, his season's on the outset, and this is perhaps a guy that, somebody has on their team. They have, if they know him, you're not getting him. It's just this is the way it is right now. However, if they just sort of have him, they drafted him late, took a flyer on him, you're going to look at the stat line and you're not impressed, especially after he did get promoted to high A and it's gone not very well. But the stats aren't as bad as they may seem at the outset. On-base percentage is healthy. The strikeouts and walks are close enough to be pretty excited about. And then, of course, you remember we're talking about a teenager, 19-year-old. This is a guy still learning how to be a professional baseball player. And the debut he had last year, combined with the age and the fact that he's getting to power and he's walking a ton, this is still a guy to get excited about. 31 extra base hits to go along with those 10 homers. I guess they don't go along, but that's a lot of extra base hits that could potentially turn into 20, 30 homer power for a guy that, Cleveland's going to be interested in because they're always needing some pop and a guy that could travel quickly through the system despite the young age. Because defensively, there's not much for him to learn now if he's going to DH and play first. No, although that shouldn't say that about first base. It's extremely hard, according to Ron Washington. But anyway, I digress. Hey, look at that, Nate. You get your guy, a Dodger.
I do.
River Ryan, tell me about him coming in at number 97.
Yeah, River Ryan, number 97, has probably become over this season a name that at first when you hear it, you think to yourself, who the hell is this guy? But then you look at his stuff, you look at his stats, and you think of the Dodgers and their pitching selection, which has been, I mean, their starting pitching this year has been absolutely decimated by injuries. That seems to be the trend for the Dodgers over the past 5 years at least. Everybody's getting hurt in LA, and maybe it's because they're just producing so many top level pitchers. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea what's going on, what's in the water. But this kid, no longer a kid. He's just turned 26 in August 17th, as a matter of fact. So just a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago. 10 days ago, 11, whatever. It doesn't matter. He was drafted in 2021 in the 11th round, more or less a flyer. And this is what LA does. They take these kids in the double-digit rounds and they turn them into 3 or 4 starter, 3 or 4 number 3 or 4 starters at the major league level. Before he was called up to make his debut, he was at 2.22 ERA through 8 starts, 24 innings, only 17 hits, 1 home run. That's it. 8 walks, 32 strikeouts with a opponent's average of 200 with a 103 whip. Now, what I like about Ryan is that he's got a really good fastball. It has a lot of upward movement. And he's also got 2 above average breaking balls. But what he doesn't really throw any longer is a fading changeup, which he used to throw a lot more often. I'm pretty sure last year. But his ERA ballooned to 3.80. So I think he lost it because he has this cutting, like faster, tighter spinning slider / cutter, and then he's got his slower curveball, which I think is what he's using as the off-speed pitch. It's worked for him thus far since he's been called up. 4 starts, and in those 4 starts thus far as a Los Angeles Dodger, he's 1-0 with only a 1.33 ERA through 20 1/3 innings pitched, only 15 hits, 1 home run. He does have 9 walks and 18 strikeouts, but the walks are a little bit to be expected with the numbers elsewhere that are as good as they are, and an opponent's average of only 208. So if you're nitpicking, yeah, the walks are up there a little bit, but he's in the big leagues now, and these hitters are so much better than the AAA and the AA hitters. A 118 whip, and as far as I'm concerned, he'll only get better. And look for him in the rotation starting next year.
So if you got one of your favorites, 97, River Ryan, Dodger, I get one of the guys that I have never been into, but I will say that the path here does sort of lend non-believers to perhaps take a closer look and potentially believe. I'm talking about Kumar Rocker for Texas, the right-hander. Of course, his story, being drafted by the Mets, then coming up with elbow trouble, and then somehow getting drafted earlier the next year by the Rangers at number 3 overall, although that was for some signing purposes and leverage and whatnot. Then those physicals that the Mets got out of there proved to be correct, as he had shoulder surgery and Tommy John surgery since then. The thing is, he started to figure out some stuff right before the TJ, and he's back, and he looks even better.
Yeah.
He's got now granted 5 starts, but this is 5 starts coming back from TJ. That's what's crazy. So the control, the last thing to come, right? They always say, the control is the last thing to come. He only has 3 walks in 19 innings. Just 29 strikeouts in those 19 innings. And 0.46 ERA. So, when you fix your shoulder, you fix your elbow, and you had the stuff that he had, maybe the control was suffering because of some of those
Mm-hmm.
things that were not working correctly, sort of thing. So like common sense says, okay, you have to come back to this guy and give him another shot. Here's the thing. Two people have Kumar Rocker right now in your dynasty leagues. Nobody, you're not picking him up, I don't think. But one, the person who believed in him from the start still has him, and you'll never get. You should not get either. I would not pay that top 50 price for him. Or number two, he's been moved around and he's on a team that got him, that maybe liked him, maybe didn't. But if you want to maybe buy in on the hype that was surrounding him a few years ago, this is the time to maybe buy low and go for it. He is going to move fast at 24. I mean, this kid is huge and intimidating too, by the way. His dad was a linebacker. So this is 6'5", 245. If his shoulder and elbow are all good, which that's a big if. But if they are, with his command improved and that arsenal that he has, I mean, I'm looking at a 70 grade slider, that famous slider of Rocker that I'm getting back into. I don't know. Maybe it's time. So there you go. Kumar Rocker, Texas Rangers, man, they would love for him to break through. That would be a huge boost for them. But hey, look at that at number 95, another guy that's relatively familiar to you. So I'm glad we did the evens and odds, because you get a guy that you know very well and you could tell everybody a lot about, although he is no longer on your team.
He's not. Of course, Alex is talking about Tayron Lorenzo, the catcher in quotes / first baseman, who has got your Don Alvarez comps before. Big kid, 6'3", 195. I would argue he's probably more like 210 at 21. Just turned 21 in early July. Switch hitting beast, who was just recently for Jack Flaherty traded to the Detroit Tigers. When I found out that Lorenzo was the piece they sent over, I was immediately upset, but I love Flaherty. I'm not a huge fan of, unless they are just the top 2% percentile pitchers in Major League Baseball, like DeGrom when he's healthy, or Verlander 5 years ago. I'm not the hugest fan of trading at the deadline for pitching. It's just such a crapshoot, and when you trade away these stud prospects, it's hard. However, I do like the trade. Lorenzo is what everything I just said he is, except I don't know that he is progressing as fast as the Dodgers were hoping he would. I mean, single A last year, forget about it. He's at Rancho. He has a 400 on base percentage, a 562 slug with 24 bombs. I mean, are you kidding me? 70 walks to 112 strikeouts. Well, now he's at single A advanced, and before we traded him, you can understand why the Dodgers did the deal. 220, 344 on base percentage, 356 slug. That's only a 700 OPS for those of you at home. Through 264 at bats, the kid put together 15 doubles, 7 home runs, 30 RBIs, 49 walks, and 82 strikeouts through 264 at-bats. They make the trade, wash their hands of him. He goes to Detroit. I bet Detroit got in his ear and motivated him and said, listen, kid, you were never going to be the starting catcher / first baseman for the Dodgers, putting those numbers up, but I can guarantee you that you'll be starting for us. The sooner the better. And Look at these numbers. My God, talk about a turnaround. 367 batting average, 519 on base percentage, 667 slug. That's an 1186 OPS for those of you at home. It's only 18 games, but I don't care. He's already proven to everyone that he can do it in single A. Now he's doing it in single A advanced. 60 at bats on the dot. 15 runs scored, 22 hits, 6 dubs, 4 bombs already. That is more than half than he had all season long through 264 at bats in Great Lakes, Michigan for the Loons. Now he is at whatever WM Detroit single A advanced. What's the word? What's the word I'm trying to think of, Alex? Affiliate. Thank you much.
Yeah, I don't know what word you were trying to
I appreciate the help. And listen to this. 4 home runs, like I just said, 15 ribs through how many games? 18 games. 15 runs, 15 ribs, 18 games. Listen to this. This is the best part. If you're a Tigers fan, and I'm sure Kurt Moody had a little bit to do with this ranking. Shout out to Kurt. The kid has a walk to strikeout ratio right now of 19 to 13. 19 walks to 13 strikeouts. You cannot tell me that Teheran Lorenzo isn't motivated right now to show the Dodgers exactly what they lost. And now I'm starting to second guess the move myself. I had no idea he was doing so well with Detroit, but more power to him is what I say.
Remember when you had Dalton rushing and you had Lorenzo and you had Diego Cartaya and it was okay if they did, you had Will Smith, and now Will Smith stinks. I mean, I say that for some shock value, but he has been horrible. Lately. You don't have Lorenzo anymore. Diego Cartaya forgot how to do anything, and then Dalton Rushing's been. So it's like you had 3 catchers plus Will Smith, and now you're like, oh, shoot, oopsies. So I wonder if the Dodgers just kind of forced themselves into a weird spot with those decisions. That's just funny observation.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, check out.
Yeah, that was hilarious, Alex.
He's been. I saw a tweet like he's been like one of the worst hitters in the big leagues. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, he's struggling, but
and he's 29. When did Will Smith get to be 29?
I have no idea. It's like he aged 3 years.
I thought he was like 24.
At least 26.
He went to 29. What the heck happened there? Anyway,
I don't know. He's gonna be 40 next year.
Let's go ahead and move on. We'll get a couple of more here. Let's see if we can get through the 90s, and then we'll do a couple more episodes to finish this up. This is an exciting list. I think getting these guys to be updated, understand that, we may have been really high on them, but with more information, new flaws come out, or hopefully new skills came out and new progressions and things that got these guys to be pretty exciting. So here's a name for you, a guy that's been around for a while, and it's number 94, Met prospect. So we have to be very careful about these Met prospects. But it's Luis Acuna. I know all about Acuna. But we have little bro here, still hanging around, number 94 on the list. I think people got they saw Acuna and they got, okay, it's little brother. He's not going to be as good as Ronald. I'm not worried about it. Then the hype went in the opposite direction and said, this guy's going to steal 50 bases. He's going to play on the dirt. And it's still Acuna, right? And now we've kind of gone back in the opposite direction. That's some sort of degrees I don't even know. We'll say 148 degrees. But a lot of it now has to be with the sample size that we have for Luis Angel Acuna. We're not getting the power. It was. I mean, we probably could have guessed that. We're at 10 to 15 tops with good speed. He has 34 stolen bases this year, but swings pretty much at everything. And 30 walks for a guy that's not going to provide a lot of power. And I know Ronald swings at a lot of things, but Ronald swings at a lot of things that are in the zone. And he takes his walks. So go look at older bro Now, it's a lot easier to get walks when you're going to draw 40 home runs in the big leagues, right? People are not going to pitch to you. So little disappointing. It's been a slow burn since 2021, but he's only 22 years old. He is going to make the big leagues. This is a guy that is probably going to be at second base, stealing 20 to 30 easy with some potential power. I just don't see it, though. That's the problem. At 5'8", he's a tiny little dude, and at least tinier than you would want somebody that might hit 20 to homer. I just don't think that's in the cards. But still a decent fantasy guy. Perhaps you always get that outfield plus infield eligibility, which would make him very valuable. But he does have to compete with another guy that you may have forgot about, and I'll let you take this guy. Another New York Met, another infielder we haven't heard much from this year, but I'll let you explain why.
Yeah, at number 93, everybody remembers this name, Ronnie Mauricio, who in 2023 was putting together a superior season at Syracuse, AAA Syracuse. 292 average, 852 OPS, 23 home runs, well on his way to producing his typical line that was always impressive, 24 stolen bases, etc. Then he gets promoted to the Mets and starts really, after 100 at-bats, starts to really find his swing, and then boom, all of a sudden hits a brick wall at the worst of times. What was the injury, Alex? Was it ACL, MCL, or torn ACL in his right knee, underwent surgery, and that's expected to keep him out for until January of next year. So, I'm glad that we still have him on the list. Only 23 years old. He'll be back. He's 6'3". This is wrong, plainly. I don't know what MLB is smoking, but 6'3", they got 166, but he's every bit of 180. Switch hitting monster. I mean, when he's right, Mauricio is one of the most exciting bats in the game, in my opinion. I love this kid. And they also have his hit tool at 40. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. He hit 292 in AAA last year. And at the absolute worst, if they want to say it's a 40 hit tool, he hit 248 at the major league level last year. So come on. Mauricio is going to be back. He can play every position on the field. Just really, really bad injury at a really, really bad time, a worse time, because he was just starting to find his groove. That's Mauricio at 93, I believe. Yes.
We're talking about injury and injury alone of why you would see his name so low on lists. And I think you, again, you kind of have the two types of people in there. Somebody that has, if they've sat with him this long, they probably believe in him a lot, or he's been passed around and maybe you can buy low on somebody that is definitely out. I mean, I just read that he had another surgery to clean up the knee, so he's out for sure. There was some hope that maybe he could come back this year, but he is an exciting fantasy guy too. So keep an eye on him in the offseason. See if you can't maybe even snatch him up now, especially if you're out of it, or trade deadlines I know are passing by rapidly. But be on the look for on the offseason for him. All right, let's do we'll do two more guys here. I'll do one here at 92, and then you can finish us up with number 91. But number 92, again, I feel like I'm getting all the guys that I've always said I don't like. But to be fair, this is and I'm only saying that because it's a catcher. That's the only reason why. This guy is the most I shouldn't say that. It's not true, because he is a prep catcher, and there's a poor track record with prep catchers. But this guy seems like a sure thing to me. This is Blake Mitchell for the Kansas City Royals, and he is essential. I mean, I don't have to say much. This guy is going to stick at catcher and Salvi as soon as he retires, which, 1 or 2, 3 more years, something in that. This guy is taking over. It's very obvious. He's the catcher of the future. He's got a cannon. He's staying on the spot, and he's going to hit 25 homers and hit 220 at the 220 to 240 range. I mean, it's about as simple as that. So the bar's low for catchers. And if he's hitting that and he's playing a lot, I mean, there you go. If that's your cup of tea, go for it. I really do like Mitchell. I think my compliment is trying to say that this guy is a big leaguer, almost like guaranteed, which is saying a lot for a prep catcher. But at the same time, it's coming out like I'm not a fan of him. But the point is, this guy you can invest in. You know what you're going to be getting. It's going to take a while, right? But he's going to stay at the position. You got 240 and 25 homer, maybe 250, 30 homer potential at the best. But this guy can rake. He's a big guy, lefty hitter. I always like lefty hitting catchers for some reason. But that's Blake Mitchell, catcher for the Kansas City Royals. So Nate, go ahead and finish us up with number 91, and we'll go ahead and take the episode to that.
Okay. Number 91 is one of my very favorites. And in the next couple of minutes, everyone, I will give you my reasoning for keeping your hands tightly gripped upon Yankiel Fernandez's whatever it is that holds him in place. I love this kid. He turned 21 in January, so he's 21 the entire year of 2024. He's always the youngest player at every level he goes, and he always has this period of adjustment. First years as a prospect, he didn't. That's probably why he was a lot higher on lists leading up to last year. I'm sorry, 2020. No, last year. Then he hit Double-A, where his average went from 319 to 206. Massive drop. But again, youngest kid in Double-A at the time last year. This is the reason why. Then this year, he starts the season in Double-A, and I remember him. He was en fuego, on fire. 283, almost to 800 OPS, 314 at bats, 10 home runs, but I don't know what to call it as far as the 10 home runs are concerned, because that is a lot of at bats. I hadn't really seen that yet, but they promote him to AAA, and he goes from 283 to 234. And his on-base percentage goes from 339, which is already not very good, to 272, which is anemic. And, of course, his slug follows 439 to 312. But this is why you keep him. That period of adjustment is always something that Yankiel goes through. He goes through it ever since he hit Double-A last year, and he can get through it. Now, my hope is that when he gets through all of these adjustments, that he's still that monster that we are seeing in Single-A full season ball, where he dropped 21 home runs and hit 284 with an 847 OPS. In my opinion, his ceiling is about especially playing in Colorado, I'd say 110 to 115 RBIs, 25 to 30 bombs a year. I just love this kid, and I know he's power first, which goes against everything that I ever say all the time. But I think that his hit tool is enough to where he'll be able to access that power for the rest of his career. And he's proven that once he adjusts, and once he's no longer the youngest player at his level. I mean, AAA, he just turned 21. I mean, AAA is 21 for all of 2024. That's rough. And he's been doing that at every level that he's ever played at. So, maybe by the time he makes the bigs and then he's, say, I don't know, 24 years old, that's when he starts picking up speed. So just be as patient as you already have been, because if you still have him and you're in a dynasty league that's been going on for 3 or 4 years like I have been, and I still have him, just continue to be patient, because nothing is going to pay off if you're selling Yankiel Fernandez right now, because his numbers, they've dropped every year. But I just gave you the reasons why. And in my opinion, and that's a pretty goddamn good opinion, he'll access that power enough because his hit tool is good enough to allow him to hit for power at a level that will be able to eventually pay you back. Now, I know the Colorado Rockies curse is in effect here, but I also think that there are players that can break through and beat that curse. It hasn't seemed that way in 20 years, but perhaps Yankees is the torch bearer of the Rockies' troubles here. You know, he and Chase Dollander come mobbing through downtown Denver with the torch, and they're screaming like wild banshees, and then they go and become all-stars. Not because every team in the bigs needs an all-star, but become legitimate all-stars. I can see that happening. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I know you've been on him for a very long time, so I do have to applaud you for continuing to stay on him. But you just gotta kind of look at him, and again, like you said, the homers aren't quite there yet, but it's just obvious that if he's gonna make it as a big leaguer, then it's gonna be because he's hitting 35 home runs. It's just that's the profile. So not worried about it in the minor leagues. You know, you never know what they're working on. Is he working on going away with pitches? Is he working on taking breaking balls? Like, unless you're going to every one of these games, it's going to be tough to know. So you stay with him. I'm proud of you for that, Nate. That's good. It didn't waver. So anyway, very nice. Okay, so I thought we would get through a little bit more today, but you know, coming up against the hour here, we'll go ahead and stop there, and we'll hit up 80s and 70s, and maybe we can get a little bit fast. I think at the more well-known the name is, I think actually the less we would have to talk about. Like, I don't know how much more we can talk about Jackson Holiday and Junior and, you know, Max Clark.
Dylan Cruz.
But I like talking about guys that, you know, we don't talk about a ton because they're just on the fringe. And a lot of these guys are having a little bit of a down year, a little bit of a fall that I noticed. That was the theme for some of these guys. So buy low candidates if you believe in them. Stay true like Nate did with Yankees, and you're going to be in a good spot. All right, Nate, that's going to do it for us. How's your fantasy football going?
Ooh, looking mighty fine.
Yeah.
Perhaps in a couple, maybe in a week, or whenever we get back on. Maybe after a week or two, we'll reveal our and if we can take a second just to reveal our NFL rosters.
I will think of some way to tie it in,
so that the world
league prospects at the end.
Yeah.
All right. Again, thanks for listening. We're going to keep churning these out for sure. We won't take as much time in between. We're just going to kind of get these out to you as quickly as possible. Let you listen, digest for the couple days. We'll try to get these out quickly so that it's still fresh and you can take advantage of these guys in your dynasty leagues. Maybe beat the trade deadline and all of that. So Nate, thanks for joining me again. And again, appreciate everybody listening, staying with us. It's been a crazy summer again. I know we haven't gotten as many as we would have liked. I think Nate, I can speak for Nate. Just life getting in the way. Two kids now with moving. Oh man, and then all-stars and softball starting back up again. So I'm trying my best, guys. So appreciate patience and hopefully you guys like them when we do get them out. But we're gonna really get these ones going here and get this top 100 list because this is stuff you can use throughout the year. So there you go. This is Prospects 1500 sponsoring Futures Focus. This is Alex Sanchez and Nate Eckert. We'll see you soon.